Have you ever felt like you were running an endless marathon, out of breath and without motivation to keep going? The truth is, many of the things that wear us down and drain our energy day by day could be completely avoided. Yes, those life lessons that once learned transform the way we see the world. And I ask you, why continue carrying this unnecessary weight when you can move forward more lightly without so many obstacles in the way? This is where Stoic philosophy comes into play, bringing its ancient wisdom to teach you to focus on what truly matters and to let go of everything that doesn't make a difference in your life. Today, we're going to talk about 10 things that drain your energy in such a subtle way that you might not even notice. Until now, what you're about to discover will open your eyes, and I guarantee that after this video, you will feel lighter, more focused, and with completely renewed energy. It will be as if the weight holding you back is being lifted, allowing a new force to flow into your life. Before we continue, I want you to stop and think. If we don't have time to rest, it's because we wasted the time we had. Every second of this video was made to deliver value to you, and every second you dedicate here could be the starting point for a real and deep transformation in your life. So, if you're ready for this change, comment now with the keyword, "I am ready to be my best version." Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any powerful content like this. Let's go. 1. Negative people. Have you ever felt like you were living in a black and white movie where you're the only character in color while everyone around you seems to add only shades of gray? If this is your feeling, it's possible that you are surrounded by negative people. Negative people. Those who seem to have a gift for ruining the good mood of any environment. But before we fall into a spiral of self-pity, let's analyze the scenario and understand how to prevent these negative energies from sucking your vitality, like a sponge in a puddle of melancholy. These people aren't like ketchup that you can easily wipe away. They are more like persistent mold, difficult to eradicate. Imagine your energy as a battery and these people as thieves who discreetly drain it every time you encounter them. Negative people have a special ability to turn any situation into a catastrophe. They invite you to their pity parties where they showcase their collection of complaints. When they ask you how work is going, you already brace yourself to hear an epic monologue about everything that's wrong. But it's possible to avoid letting these people drain you. First, pay attention to the warning signs. If someone greets you with, "How's life?" and you already know you're about to hear a dissertation on the world's problems, maybe it's time to shorten the conversation. This doesn't mean isolating yourself, but rather preserving your mental peace. A technique inspired by Stoic philosophy is to create mental barriers. The Stoics believed in the importance of controlling our reactions, and you can apply this principle too. Visualize your mind as an impenetrable fortress where other people's complaints and negativity are just the noise of an army of barbarians that will never breach your walls. Another strategy is to maintain a prudent distance. You don't need to cut these people out of your life, but you can reduce the time you spend with them. Instead of accepting an invitation for an afternoon of toxic conversations, plan an activity that recharges your energy. Swap coffee with that complainer for a walk outdoors, or an afternoon of reading. Your body and mind will thank you. The secret to keeping your energy intact is to be selective with the people around you. It's not about living like a hermit, but recognizing that your time and energy are precious resources. Choose wisely where to invest them. And if you have to live with negative people, do so with the same posture as you would when reading a self-help book in a language you don't understand, with distance, without letting it affect you too much. You can't control other people's emotional climate, but you can control the impact it will have on you. Keep your internal fortress strong, and you'll see your life gain more color instead of being dominated by gray tones. As Confucius once said, it's easier to stay at peace when we decide that other people's chaos doesn't have to be ours too. 2. Perfectionism. Have you ever caught yourself correcting a text for the millionth time, obsessing over every detail, every accent? This type of ritual seems to make sense at the moment, but in the end, you just end up with a slightly improved version of something that was already good enough. The culprit? Perfectionism. This two-headed monster not only steals your time, but also your energy and peace of mind. Let's think a little about perfectionism. If you're like most people, you probably believe that doing everything perfectly is the key to success. But if you reflect carefully, you'll see that perfectionism is like being on a hamster wheel. You keep running, but never really get anywhere. Stoic philosophy, which proposes that we focus on what we can control and dedicate ourselves to what we can truly change, can be the perfect antidote to this modern poison. The problem with perfectionism is that you're never really satisfied with anything. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how hard you try, something always seems to be missing. This mindset not only exhausts you, but also prevents you from appreciating the process and real progress. Instead of seeking perfection, why not focus your efforts on doing the best you can and then moving on? Perfectionism is like that annoying friend who insists you work harder to make things perfect, but is really just stealing your time and energy. One trick to combat perfectionism is to set clear limits for your tasks. Imagine you're painting a wall. Instead of spending hours adjusting the color or trying to smooth out every detail, set a specific deadline to finish the job. If you decide you have 1 hour to paint, when the time is up, accept that you did a good job. The wall might not be perfect, but at least now you can see the surrounding environment instead of obsessing over a small imperfection. Another approach is to adopt the concept of good enough. Do your best, but remember that perfection is an illusion. The Stoics teach us that we should focus on what we can control and accept what we can't change. Applying this mindset to your projects can free you from the perfectionism trap. Furthermore, consider the impact perfectionism has on your well-being. Imagine you're a glass of water, and with every obsession over perfection, you pour a little water out of the glass. Eventually, you'll be empty. Instead of letting perfectionism drain you, seek to balance your time and energy. Dedicate yourself to what's important, not to what will never be completely perfect. Perfectionism is a trap that only steals your energy and happiness. Embracing the concept of good enough and limiting the time spent on tasks can be liberating. Remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly, but about doing your best and moving on. As Epictetus wisely said, perfection is the enemy of the good. Accept good enough and keep moving forward. 3. Clutter. Have you ever looked around and felt like you're living in controlled chaos? I'm talking about that moment when you realize that the mountain of papers on your desk could create a new ecosystem. Yes, I'm talking about clutter. And no, I'm not referring to your teenage bedroom, but to the chaos that for some reason we decide to keep as adults, as if it were some sort of personal decoration. First, let's talk about the feeling of being trapped in the middle of a hurricane. You wake up in the morning, ready to conquer the world, and suddenly you're faced with a pile of dirty clothes that you have to step over to get to the coffee maker. And so your day begins. Your energy is drained in a daily battle against clutter. It's as if your environment is a minefield that, instead of exploding, drains you slowly. Clutter is a silent thief of energy. Imagine your life as a stream of fresh, free-flowing water. Now imagine that clutter is the rocks in the riverbed. Instead of flowing freely, you find yourself stuck and blocked. Every object out of place, every pile of papers, and every piece of clothing on the floor are obstacles that impede your natural flow. According to Stoic philosophy, external order reflects a state of inner peace. If your environment is in chaos, it's likely that your mind is too. So how do we solve this before clutter takes over everything? The answer lies in simplifying. I know this may sound as exciting as doing yoga on a bed of nails, but there are ways to make the process less painful. Here's a tip: the 3-box method. Set aside 1 box for what you want to keep, another for what needs to be donated or sold, and a third for what simply needs to be thrown away. Take some time to apply this technique in every corner of your life. Do it in parts if necessary, and remember, the goal isn't just to get rid of what you don't need, but to recover your energy. A subtler piece of advice: keep only the essentials in sight. Minimalism isn't just a passing trend. It's a way to keep your mind free of distractions. By having fewer things around, you ensure that each object in your life has a clear and defined purpose. Every time you eliminate the superfluous, your mind can focus on what really matters. The conclusion is simple. Clutter isn't just an enemy of your physical space, but also a thief of your mental energy. Adopting a more organized and deliberate approach to your life not only simplifies your environments, but also lightens your mental load. Don't let chaos dominate you. If you keep an organized environment, you'll also have a clear and focused mind. As Marian Rogers wisely said, a tidy space not only clears the area, but also the mind. So the next time you feel suffocated by the whirlwind of clutter, remember that the change is in your hands. You just need to take the first step, perhaps starting with that mountain of clothes. Good luck. 4. Comparing yourself to others. Have you ever realized how much time and energy you spend comparing yourself to others? If you've ever felt that life is unfair because it seems like everyone has everything under control while you can barely keep your head above water, know that you're not alone. The trap of comparing yourself to others is a true energy thief, and if you're not careful, it can end up draining every last drop of vitality you have. Imagine for a moment that you're in an obstacle race, but instead of focusing on moving forward, you spend the whole time looking at the runner next to you. While they advance, you're stuck. Not because you're slower, but because you're too busy comparing your pace to theirs. This is a foolproof strategy for ending up exhausted and frustrated. And in the end, the race doesn't even matter to you. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in, an approach that, although ancient, is more relevant today than ever. The Stoics teach us that we should focus our energy only on what is within our control. When you compare yourself to others, you're investing your energy in something that is completely beyond your reach, like trying to control the weather. Instead, prepare your umbrella and keep moving forward. So how do you free yourself from this trap? First, recognize that life is not a competition. Every person has their own path and their own obstacles. Comparing yourself to others is like looking at a broken mirror that only reflects the parts that make you feel bad about yourself. Instead, focus on your own progress. Celebrate your small victories and acknowledge your areas of improvement. This focus will not only make you feel more satisfied, but also allow you to advance more effectively. A useful technique is to set personal goals based on your own past performance, rather than on what others are doing. For example, if you're looking to improve in your career, compare your results this year with those of last year, instead of comparing yourself to that colleague who always seems one step ahead. This kind of comparison allows you to see the real impact of your efforts and motivates you to keep going. Another strategy is to practice gratitude. Take a few minutes each day to reflect on what you've already accomplished and what you're grateful for. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have, and this can help you keep the right perspective. If you focus on the positive aspects of your life, it'll be easier to stop worrying about what others have or do. Comparing yourself to others is an endless source of exhaustion and disillusionment. Instead of letting this practice rob your energy, choose to focus on your own path and celebrate your progress. Remember that every step you take is a step forward, regardless of how other people's steps might seem. Remember this, my friend. Comparing yourself to others is like trying to fill a bottomless cup. It will never be complete, and you will always feel empty. So stop looking to the sides and start looking ahead. Your energy is too valuable to waste on useless comparisons. Make each moment count for you. 5. Excessive worry. Have you ever noticed how excessive worry can turn into a kind of involuntary hobby? Yes, that activity you engage in with such dedication that you forget to live in the present. Imagine your mind as a garden. Instead of fresh, vibrant flowers, what you have are weeds growing out of control. Each worry is like one of these weeds, consuming all the soil's resources and suffocating any possibility of happy thoughts growing. Does this sound familiar to you? Excessive worry is like an extreme sport, where you don't have to put in much physical effort, but the emotional toll is brutal. Those thoughts spinning in your head in the middle of the night, the famous what-ifs. What if this goes wrong? What if that happens? Are like small stones in your shoes. Even though they're small, they can make every step uncomfortable. And the curious thing is that instead of removing them, you often continue walking on them, convinced that it's part of your destiny. Imagine you're facing a screen that continuously shows all your potential problems. It's as if your mind were a 24-hour news channel, but instead of reporting global events, it's dedicated to announcing impending personal disasters. Stoic philosophy suggests that we should focus our energy on what we can control and let go of what's beyond our hands. For example, instead of worrying about the possibility of your presentation being a disaster, focus on preparing it as best as you can. You can't control whether it will rain on the day of the presentation, but you can control how well organized the content is. Here's a foolproof technique to avoid wearing yourself out with worries. The 5-minute rule. Dedicate just 5 minutes a day to thinking about your worries. Schedule this time as if it were an important meeting, but once the time is up, move on to something else. It's surprising how your perspective can change when you limit the time you spend thinking about what could go wrong. Remember, most of the time, what we fear is not as bad as we imagine. Moreover, it's vital to find activities that recharge you and help keep your mind occupied with something positive. You can practice meditation, exercise, or simply read a good book. These moments of relaxation work as a balm for the mind, helping to neutralize the wear caused by worry. Another strategy is to write down your worries. It might sound simple, but externalizing your thoughts and putting them on paper can help you see them from a clearer and more objective perspective. Often, what seemed like a mountain in your mind turns into a simple hill when you see it in writing. Excessive worry is a silent thief that robs your energy and the joy of living. Stoic philosophy reminds us that worrying doesn't solve problems, it only consumes our vitality. By limiting the time you spend worrying and focusing on activities that revitalize you, you can regain control of your well-being. So the next time you find yourself caught in a cycle of worry, remember that you have the power to change the mental channel and give your mind the rest it deserves. As Mario Alonso Puig wisely said, worry is like a wheel that spins incessantly. The more you look at it, the less it advances. 6. Monotony. Monotony. That daily spectacle where every day looks so much like the next that you begin to wonder if you'll ever escape this endless routine maze. If you've ever felt like you're stuck in a repetitive movie where you're the protagonist and the only plot is surviving one more day, know that you're not alone. Monotony can be extremely draining, subtly sapping your vital energy. Life in its most boring version is like a coffee machine that only serves decaf. At first, you might find it interesting, but soon you realize that you're living in an energy limbo, a kind of emotional dead zone where everything is predictable and flavorless. Monotony is not just the lack of variety, it's a kind of emotional vampire that sucks your creativity and enthusiasm, leaving you with a half-empty routine glass. Imagine waking up at 7 in the morning, showering with the same soap as always, putting on the same clothes you've been rotating for months, and going to work where you do exactly the same things every day. If all of this sounds familiar to you, you're dancing to the rhythm of monotony. Congratulations. You're part of the exclusive club of daily routines that drain your energy. But don't worry, there are ways to break this cycle and kick monotony out of your life. First, start varying your habits. If your breakfast is always toast with jam, why not try a smoothie or even an international breakfast? Changing small details in your routine can be the first step toward bringing a touch of freshness to your life. Another strategy is to diversify your activities. If you spend most of the day in front of a screen, try introducing some physical or creative activity. Going for a walk in a park, learning to play an instrument, or even trying out a new recipe can be fantastic ways to revitalize your daily life. If you're lucky enough to be able to choose your projects at work, select those that challenge you and take you out of your comfort zone. Don't forget that Stoic philosophy also offers a valuable perspective in these cases. According to the Stoics, what matters is not what happens to us, but how we respond to it. If monotony captures you, it's your choice how to face it. You can let it exhaust you or use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Monotony is like a silent thief that steals your vitality without you even realizing it. But just like any thief, you can take measures to avoid it. Change your routines, seek new experiences, and adopt a proactive stance. Don't let monotony turn you into a passive spectator of your own life. At the end of the day, remember that you can be the director of your movie, not just a spectator of a predictable plot. As Salvador Dali once said, activity is the only escape that brings color back to our lives. 7. Lack of sleep. Let's talk about a subject that, if I'm honest, is slowly destroying you while you continue to insist that everything is fine. Lack of sleep. Yes, this treacherous habit that makes you feel like a zombie every morning and leaves you in a mood worthy of an epic drama. But of course, there's no time to sleep properly. There's work, social commitments, and of course, that series you just can't stop watching. Let's better understand how lack of sleep is harming you and what you can do to avoid it. Think of sleep as your car's fuel. If you use it without refueling, at some point, you'll end up stranded, and no one wants to find themselves in that situation. Lack of sleep doesn't just leave you irritable and tired, it also affects your ability to make smart decisions and cope with stress. It's like you're driving blindfolded, but instead of being on a road, you're navigating your daily life. The consequences of not getting enough sleep are more serious than you imagine. From memory problems to difficulty concentrating, your brain goes into survival mode and simply can't function at its maximum capacity. You become a less efficient human being. And to make matters worse, the stress of constantly being exhausted makes you more susceptible to illnesses. It's a vicious cycle in which your physical and mental health deteriorates, while you wonder why your life seems like an endless battle against fatigue. But don't worry, because here are some solutions. First, establish a sleep routine. Yes, I know this sounds like grandma's advice, but it works. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Your body, like a Swiss watch, will adjust to this new routine, and you'll start sleeping better. Also, create an environment conducive to sleep. Turn off electronic devices at least an hour before bed. Remember how the Stoics talked about the importance of discipline? Well, this applies here too. Control your environment and your mind will adjust. Another helpful technique is sleep hygiene, which is nothing more than ensuring your room is dark, cool, and quiet. Consider using a sleep mask and earplugs if noise or light bothers you. And remember, your bed should be used only for sleeping, and honestly, for one other specific activity, not for working or watching TV. This way, your brain will associate the space with rest, making it easier to sleep. As for stress, one of sleep's biggest enemies, consider practicing relaxation techniques like meditation or deep breathing. You don't need to become a Zen guru, but a little calm before bed can make a big difference. Lack of sleep is like that friend who arrives late to parties and never brings anything useful. It wears you out, steals your energy, and honestly, just makes you feel bad. Don't underestimate the power of a good night's sleep. It's the foundation upon which you build everything else. If you make an effort to improve the quality of your sleep, your body and mind will thank you. And who knows, you might wake up feeling like a complete human being instead of an extra in a horror movie. As Nikola Tesla once said, sleep is not a luxury, it's a necessity. 8. Toxic relationships. Have you ever felt like a secondary character in a never-ending drama? I'm talking about those relationships that seem more like a never-ending series of meaningless battles, leaving you exhausted as if you were running a marathon in slow motion. And the worst part is that many times you don't even realize you're in the middle of this emotional torture. Let's talk about toxic relationships, those tangled webs that drain your energy and leave you staring into the void with a mix of fatigue and resignation. To start with, imagine you're at a party, and suddenly that famous energy thief appears. This person could be a partner, a friend, or even a coworker who has a special talent for turning your days into never-ending nightmares. Everything about this person's behavior screams drama, and you, as the unwilling protagonist, always end up in the role of the victim. It's like being stuck in a cycle where your efforts to please this person are as effective as trying to fill a bottomless well with a bucket of water. But how do you identify these energy thieves? Simple. They're always around to suck your vitality as if you were a rechargeable battery. Their tools are constant criticism, emotional manipulation, and endless drama. And then comes the question, why keep investing time and emotions in something that only exhausts you? Stoic philosophy offers a useful clue here. Focus on what you can control and accept what you can't. The Stoics teach us that by concentrating our energy on our own peace of mind and letting go of what's beyond our control, we can conserve our energy. How do you escape this spiral of weariness? First, establish boundaries. It's not about being cruel, but about protecting yourself. If you're dealing with someone who constantly drags you into chaos, you're not obligated to stay in that emotional whirlpool. Make it clear what you're willing to accept and what you're not. It's like having a shield in battle. It protects you from attacks that can't be avoided. Secondly, learn to say no. Often, saying yes to everything is just a way to avoid conflict, but that only perpetuates the cycle of exhaustion. Saying no is not just an act of self-preservation, but also an affirmation of your own autonomy and well-being. It's like telling the sun you'd rather stay in the shade. You simply take a step toward the light of your own peace of mind. Surrounding yourself with people who add to your life instead of subtracting from it is essential. Being with people who support you and value your time is like being in a field of flowers instead of an arid desert. Nourish yourself with positive relationships, and you'll see your energy bloom instead of wither. 9. Self-criticism. Have you ever wondered why you feel drained after spending an afternoon with yourself? No, it's not that you're trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage. It's self-criticism, that annoying voice that never stops talking. And here's the trick. It often steals more energy than you imagine. And worse, it does it for free. Self-criticism is like the air in polluted cities, always present but far from healthy. Self-criticism is like that unwanted guest at a party. It shows up uninvited and settles on the couch without asking for permission. At first, you might even think it's helpful. After all, who doesn't need a bit of constructive criticism to improve? But soon this criticism turns into a constant stream of, "You're not good enough," or "You should have done it differently." It's as if your mind has a self-imposed curse to sabotage you at every step. So how do you escape this cycle? The Stoics, those philosophers who seem to have life under control, might have an idea. According to them, the key is separating what we can control from what we can't. Imagine you're in a boat and the sea is calm. Suddenly a storm begins. What's the point of trying to control the rain? None, right? Instead, you adjust the sails and keep sailing. Self-criticism is like the rain in your boat. You can't control it, but you can choose how to react to it. First, identify if your self-criticism is based on facts or just perceptions. Often, you punish yourself for mistakes that aren't even real, just small variations of what you expected. If you made a mistake, reflect on it and learn from the experience. But if you're just punishing yourself for not being perfect, maybe it's time to rethink your expectations. Remember, perfectionism is the annoying cousin of self-criticism, always present to make you feel like nothing is ever enough. Another strategy is to replace self-criticism with self-compassion. Imagine you're talking to a friend who made a mistake. Would you say, "You're a total failure," or something more understanding? Surely you'd choose the second option, right? So treat yourself with the same kindness. Self-compassion is not a sign of weakness. It's a smart way to take care of your mental well-being. Finally, consider meditation or mindfulness practices. These techniques can help you observe your critical thoughts without being swept away by them. It's like having a mental telescope to observe the drama from a distance, instead of being caught in the middle of the storm. Self-criticism is a force that can wear you out more than you realize. Learning to handle it and separate it from your identity is crucial for maintaining your energy and well-being. After all, being your own harshest critic doesn't make you a better person. It just leaves you more exhausted. So the next time you find yourself immersed in a sea of internal criticism, remember that you can adjust the sails of your boat and sail more calmly. Remember this, my friend. If you punish yourself for your mistakes, at least make sure you've learned to fix the mess you left behind. 10. Overload of responsibility. Have you ever felt like a grated piece of ginger at 3 in the afternoon? No, it's not that your morning coffee has abandoned you or that Monday has stolen your soul. The answer might be much simpler, and at the same time, much more irritating. you're carrying a mountain of responsibilities that aren't even yours. What a surprise, right? Overloading yourself with responsibilities is the modern way of making you feel like you're slowly disintegrating while smiling politely like a zombie. Let's break down the problem. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? Sure, I can do that, or don't worry, I'll take care of it, are phrases that sound like music to your ears until you realize you're running a marathon of tasks with a pair of flip-flops and a milkshake in hand. It's as if your life were an action movie, but the protagonist, that is, you, forgot the script and finds themselves stuck in an endless scene of chaos. Overloading yourself with responsibilities is not just a logistical challenge, it's emotional torture. Your mind is occupied with an endless list of tasks, and your body is so tired that you could fall asleep the moment you sit down. It's like having an avalanche in your schedule with no shelter in sight. Now, instead of resigning yourself to this life of chronic stress, you could try something different. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in. The Stoics, those ancient sages who preferred to think more and complain less, teach us that we can control our reactions, but not always the chaos around us. If life gives you lemons, instead of making lemonade for everyone, why not consider making lemonade just for yourself? Try delegating. Yes, delegating. No, this doesn't mean dumping your responsibilities on others, but rather sharing the load fairly. If you have coworkers, family, or friends, you can distribute the tasks instead of carrying them all by yourself. Imagine you're hosting a party and decide to do everything. Buying, decorating, cooking. What a lonely party, right? But if you invite your friends to contribute, the load becomes lighter and everyone enjoys the result. See, life is much better when you're not alone in the disaster. Another strategy is learning to say no. While this might sound like a superpower reserved for the chosen few, in fact, saying no is a skill that anyone can develop. It's like when a toddler learns to walk. At first, they stumble, but eventually it becomes something natural. Saying no is an act of self-care, not selfishness. Your time and energy are limited, and if you don't set clear boundaries, someone else will do it for you. Overloading yourself with responsibilities is an invisible enemy that consumes your energy and leaves you exhausted. Adopting Stoic philosophy can help you put things in perspective and manage your tasks in a healthier way. Delegating, learning to say no, and setting clear boundaries are effective strategies to regain your balance. Don't let responsibilities devour you. Remember that in the grand scheme of things, your well-being is a priority. As a wise Stoic once said, "You can't fill a cup that's already full. Take some time to empty yours, or it will eventually overflow." I sincerely want to congratulate you for making it this far and completing the video. This shows that you are truly committed to improving as a person, and that is incredible. Now, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and join us on this journey of self-discovery and growth. Stoicism is full of powerful teachings like the ones we've seen today, applicable to our daily lives. Don't forget to leave your like. It's very important to help this content reach more people. And to know that you watched until the end, comment the keyword Stoic Discipline down below. I'm looking forward to seeing your participation in the comments. See you in the next video.